All right, we're back. All right, so after the last video, we had a couple questions on some of the equipment I brought on this trip. We were digital nomads for about 5-6 months in Asia, and so I wanted to cover in more detail some of the equipment that we carried for this trip. All the equipment here you see, we're going to put links to it on the bottom of the YouTube page. None of this is sponsored, by the way. It's the things that we used and we liked and we last 5-6 months, and even before that, before we went on the trip, just to make sure it's something that we could use and need. So actually I'm going to start here first with the power and the power sources that we used. Let's start basically with the power adapter. So I bought this off a review. I forgot what it was, but I think CNET or I don't know, one of the sites reviewed this OneAdaptr. It's actually a 65 watt fast charging adapter. It works in every single country that we were in Asia. It's got 4 USB ports in the pack, 2 USB-Cs and 2 regular USBs. And one more USB here, which is the fast charging USB. So this adapter actually can power a MacBook. Primarily the MacBook is what I carried. I didn't realize that until we were traveling. So I probably didn't need to bring my big MacBook power adapter. I could have just brought this and tied USB-C directly through here to my MacBook and would have been fine. We like to call it the octopus because when you have all these cables coming out of it, it looks kind of like an octopus. But yeah, this worked fine. I think in some countries though, people talked about like, oh, you can't plug into the wall, especially if the wall has more of an indented outlet. The only country that we've had an issue with is one hotel in Korea where it was sticking out of it was like one of those indented outlets. It was hard to put in, and then once it was in, it was hard to stick out, especially if you're hanging off a big MacBook power supply on there. But other than that, in every other country like Japan, Taiwan, Korea, it was fine. So really like this adapter. It's the OneAdaptr. It's about $50, and there's a link if you need to have it. It works across country. I think it's a 10 amp adapter too. So it provides plenty of power for whatever you need. Next to power is our portable power sources. I think the first one that I wanted to cover was the Anker. This Anker power source I bought this year for the trip. I had another Anker power adapter I thought about bringing, but I didn't actually bring that one because I wanted a new one. And I also wanted one, again, that's also fast charging. I think the other ones I had in the past wasn't as fast charging as this power adapter. The thing to know about this one, it's 24,000 milliamps. So that allows you to bring it on the plane. I think the plane right now is 27,000 and lower. And there was an agent in Singapore security that asked me exactly how many amps there were. And I think also in Korea too. So they're actually pretty strict over there about asking you how big your power bank is. So when I told them it was 24,000, I go, it's underneath the regulations. They said that was fine. What I liked about this, it was very fast charging. So if you actually plug in your iPhone into here and you wanted to charge your iPhone, we had iPhone 13 Pros. We ended up charging this. I think you get about a 40 to 50% charge in less than 10 minutes. So great at charging quickly when you need it. So you can just put it on, go use the bathroom, take a shower, and then when you come out, it's ready to go. So I really like that about this adapter. The one thing I don't like about this adapter is the form factor. It's square and it's boxy. So putting it in your pocket or putting it just in like a little fanny pack is a little harder to do. I like the smaller rectangular adapters or power banks better. But other than that, it worked great. There was a couple times I actually did use it to charge my MacBook, and it did a good enough time. It charged it well enough for some of the airport use. And then we definitely used it a lot with the iPad Pro. One other thing to note too with these adapters is that it allows you to actually charge the adapter at the same time as you're charging something else. So if you actually put this into a power outlet and then you wanted to charge a device, you can do so at the same time, which is actually a very nice benefit with an adapter. The other one we carried for maybe just day-to-day, this is mostly my wife carried, was this little Charmast adapter, and it has your cords already there. So you actually just use this as USB-C, mini USB, and then also an iPhone. It's just good too, because there's not a lot of mini USB stuff now. But one of the things that does take mini USB is my mouse. And instead of having to carry an extra USB, I could just plug this directly into my mouse, and then it works. And so we could cut down on some of the cords that we have to carry because those things don't take too much power, and you can just use this. Things I like about adapters too is I do like where they can show the power, how much power you have left. So this one has 100, this one's fully charged. And it's just a quick reference. I know the other ones you have those lights, but I actually really do like having the actual percentage charged so you know when you have to charge them, although we kept these pretty much charged the whole time. All right, so that's it. That's what we did for power. It worked well. I don't think we had any issues in any of the countries that we had. We never really came to a situation where we ran out of power. A lot of long play rides, a lot of train rides too, and power was never an issue. Okay, moving on to adapters, let's talk about some of the devices that we used on this trip. So one of my favorite devices that we used on this trip was an Asus portable monitor. This is the second monitor I tested, so I did do some testing before I chose this one. It's a little bit bigger, it's 15.6 inches. I wanted to get something at 13.3 inch range, and so I tried another brand. But the problem with that other brand was it wouldn't power on if I just directly connected to the computer, versus the Asus actually powers on when you connect it directly to the computer. So it actually powers by USB-C, and I don't need a separate power source. I can, so, and I'll talk about that too. So if you wanted to actually use this with, let's say, your Steam Deck, which I've done with your Switch, you do need to have a separate power source, and it's just basically USB-C into the power outlet, and then you connect your Steam Deck in here, which I'll talk to you guys and show you how you do that in a bit. So with this Asus monitor, it was great on the road. I use it almost every day. I actually even use it now when we got home from our trip. It's still pretty handy. I use it as a third monitor, my main monitor, my computer, and then the Asus. And it's pretty small. The other thing I like about this monitor too is, besides being able to use power, or not having it kind of power, is I did like the stand. So I know it just came off, but the stand, when I first got it, I thought, oh man, this is a weird origami-like stand. I might not like it, but it's like a cover and a stand at the same time. So this is what it looks like when you're traveling, and then you can change it. So you can actually stand it up like this if you wanted to. And most of the time though, I had it in this configuration. Takes a second. Like this configuration or this configuration. And you can also stand it up. I rarely ever use this, but you can do that as well. And then if you want to change angles, because depending on where you're putting it on, you might need a different angle, which has happened to me a couple times. I can change the angles. Now everyone complains about the stand because you saw it takes a little bit of time to actually fold it, unfold it, but it came with a cover, right? So it comes with a cover. If you're traveling, if you're on the road, it's just going to be easier. Say, oh well, a regular stand would have been better. How come you don't bring a regular, or just buy another regular stand? But that means you have to carry a stand. So this is a cover and a stand. So when you are traveling, this actually works a lot better. Stand never fell apart, so it never slid off. The magnets work. There you go. The quality of this is really good. It's OLED, so never had issue in the quality. I did plug in my Switch and my Steam Deck or on the monitor sometimes. Travel. I was also afraid that because of the travel and how we packed our bags, that this might get damaged over time, but the cover protected it, never got damaged, still looks good, still works fine since the day I bought it. All right, so that's our monitor. I have to have two monitors when I work. I work on a lot of different spreadsheet work, so it's just easier when you have two monitors. Okay, so the computer. I used the MacBook Pro 15 or 16-inch MacBook Pro. If I had a choice, this is a work issue computer, so I had to use this computer. If I had a choice, I'd probably went with a smaller MacBook, a 13-inch MacBook, like my wife carried in Asia, but I didn't, so I had the full-size MacBook, which is fine. I mean, it's good, it functions. I think it did overheat a few times when you're on the road, just because I'm running a lot of different applications, but for the most part, this worked great. Anyways, MacBook Pro, I'm not going to talk about that. You can read any articles online about and reviews about MacBook Pro. That's what I carried. But I do want to talk about the iPad Pro. So before I left on the trip, I traded in my iPad Air for an iPad Pro, thinking at first I thought we were going to be gone a little bit longer, but also I thought it would be better for just travel use. I kind of regret that decision. Now I have it, I'm going to still use it, but it's a lot heavier. So if you have the MacBook Pro, maybe the cover also makes it heavier. But if you had the iPad Air is so much lighter, and it's actually much easier to travel. You do get more than an inch extra of screen, which is good when you're watching movies. But really, when you're watching movies in front of you, that extra inch doesn't really matter too much. So I kind of wish I went with iPad Air instead, especially for what I used the majority of my iPad for during our trip, was just referencing things here and there, going on the internet or browsing, and then also watching movies and shows. iPad Air is fine for that. I didn't do anything heavy like any editing or anything on this. So didn't really need the power of it, so you don't need the extra weight, and that probably cuts off maybe almost a pound on your weight if you actually go with iPad Air versus the iPad Pro. I did like it though, so don't get me wrong, it was great on the road, it's fast, I never had any issues with it. In order to access some of the shows, I recommend getting a VPN. We use NordVPN in order to access Netflix and some of the other shows while you're on the road. But once you connect to VPN, it worked perfectly fine. The other thing I really like about the iPads, and I actually like because we watch movies together, so this is our primary way to watch movies on the road. We can actually hook up 2 AirPod Maxes or your AirPods Pro and use that for travel. So watching movies, you can connect 2 devices onto here, and so we can watch movies on the plane together, we can watch movies on the train together. It worked fine for those things. Again, I didn't get the most use out of this, so I probably would have went with a iPad Air if I were to do this again, and it's just a smaller form factor and a lot lighter. So those are the primary devices I used in terms of travel, in terms of work, in terms of entertainment. Again, but I was able to connect the Steam Deck and the Switch over to this with this handy little device. This is probably one of my favorite things I found this year and part of the travel. So I was looking for a replacement for my Switch dock. I knew I didn't want to carry my Switch dock through all of Asia. It's bulky, it's just annoying to carry. And so I looked online, a quick search showed that there's this RREAKA TV monitor dock thing. And all it does is it connects USB-C to your HDMI, but it connects it directly, and you don't need anything else in between. So I was able to connect my iPad onto a TV, so anywhere we went and we want to watch movies in bed or whatever, we just actually connected this to the TV and watch our shows and watch our movies on TV in the hotel rooms. If it didn't have HDMI, we just watched it directly, but if it did have HDMI input in some of the places that we were at, then I just connect it with this. It also works as a Switch dock as well. So if you're using it as a Switch dock, you need to actually put power. So power goes in here via USB-C, and then you just connect this over to whatever monitor. For example, if I wanted to connect it to this monitor, I would actually take a mini HDMI cable, connect it into here, and then connect HDMI here, and then connect this directly into my Switch. Steam Deck also works. Steam Deck's interesting because HDMI to here again, and then you connect this directly to your Steam Deck, and the Steam Deck actually powers this. So that was pretty handy too when I wanted to use my Steam Deck and this portable monitor. But yeah, this is handy. It works as a Switch dock. So if you have a Switch and you're traveling with a Switch, this is a must-have. I actually bought 2 of them in case it broke or some of the wires came out for whatever reason. We were doing videos and we're doing other stuff there, so you can't actually bring in memory cards, micro SD cards into your MacBook. So I brought this along too, just so I can do storage. That's all we use it for, is just to bring in our memory. So that's kind of the connectivity and connecting to different devices. Let's go to work productivity. Keyboard. I had to have a keyboard, but I found the MacBook after a while was the only keyboard I needed. So I didn't really need to bring some of the keyboards. I did bring a couple keyboards, probably overkill in the beginning of the trip. We took a quick trip back to the US. I dropped off the keyboards. The first keyboard I bought was this keyboard, which is just, the Mac mini keyboard that they have, a wireless keyboard that they have. It works fine, but I just didn't quite like it as much. I didn't really need to carry it, and I ended up not even using it for the most part. So I dropped this off on one of our trips back. But I did find a keyboard that I thought was pretty interesting. It's a natural, I like ergonomic keyboards. And so this is iClever ergonomic portable keyboard, and it just folds up like that. So I did carry this around too. Didn't quite use it as often as I liked, but I thought it was a good thing just to have around in case I wanted to just use a keyboard and mouse setup and have my my MacBook propped up on something else for better ergonomics. So this was actually a really good keyboard. I enjoyed using it sometimes, but again, not necessary if you're traveling for a long period of time. It's a nice to have, but it's also very thin, so you can just carry it if you need it. The one thing I could not live without though was AirPods Pro 2, which I got from my wife about 2 years ago. Actually, whenever it came out, she got it for me as a Christmas gift, and it was great. So noise canceling is great, meeting is great. This was probably attached to my ear half the day, almost every day, because my meeting is a lot, but also just walking around. It has a transparency mode is good. I know we bought this case in Korea too. the best things I've had. I know when I first got it, I thought this was really weird with a little dangle sticking out of your ear, but I think everyone's used to it by now, or dongle sticking out of your ear, but I think everyone's used to it by now. Super handy to have around. Works good with movies, works good with all the Apple devices, so highly recommend. So that's about it. That's all the stuff that we carried on our trip, and was able to work pretty efficiently for about 5 to 6 months on the road. Didn't have any issues. I thought things would fail, but never had any issues with any of the devices that we had. Thanks for watching.